lonely engineer trapped on an abandoned moon, an alien caretaker sent to heal his wounds. But as her skin begins to glow and her breath grows heavy, he discovers a terrifying secret. She's entering a dangerous phase called the bond, and she's chosen him. If he accepts, he'll never be human again, but if he refuses, she'll die. And they're not alone. The drones are coming. Will he choose love or lose everything? If you're new here, then please subscribe this channel and show thumbs up by liking the video. Now let's move to this wonderful story. Naven sat on the edge of a broken bench in the cold control room of Station Epsilon 12, staring at the quiet hum of flickering monitors and metal walls stained with rust and time. The silence almost louder than any scream. The mining colony had been evacuated after the last power core nearly overloaded, and most workers fled with the emergency transport ships, leaving behind the damaged, the broken, and the forgotten. Naven was one of them, his leg crushed in a fall when the elevator shaft failed, his ribs still aching from the pressure, the pain dull but constant like the loneliness pressing against his chest. He had not spoken to another human in weeks, only the A voice that repeated useless status updates and the sound of distant air vents groaning in old metal lungs. Then, without warning, the door to the main hall opened and she stepped in. She moved like water, silent and smooth, her figure tall and graceful, skin glowing faintly with a coral hue that shimmered like starlight behind glass. Naven blinked, unsure if she was real. Her silver eyes watched him without blinking, without judgment, her long dark fingers folding around a small tray that carried a steaming bowl of synthetic soup. "I am here to care for you," she said, her voice calm like wind through leaves. She placed her hand on his shoulder, warm, grounding, making him feel something he hadn't felt in days. Noticed. Her name was Lure, a caretaker from the Tavari, a race not often seen outside high council stations. Yet here she was in a crumbling outpost beside a human nobody. Every day she came to him, tended his injuries, whispered soft reminders to breathe, to eat, to rest. But she never shared much of herself. She spoke politely, treated him kindly, yet stayed behind invisible walls. Naven tried to talk more, asked questions, made jokes, but Lurai only smiled with a sadness he couldn't understand. Then came the changes. It began with warmth, subtle, strange warmth that filled the rooms no matter how low he set the thermostat. It clung to his skin, thick and slow like the air before a storm. Then her glow brightened, not in a beautiful way, but in a pulsing rhythm that seemed connected to her breath. Her eyes, once calm and distant, now flickered with something else, something deeper. Naven noticed her hands shaking once when she handed him a blanket. She didn't explain. She just looked away and said, "Just adjusting to the environment." But he felt it. Something was wrong. Late one night, unable to sleep, he wandered the hallways, limping past dark rooms and humming walls. He saw her standing near the window, hands pressed to the glass, whispering in her native language, voice so soft he could barely catch one word, his name. The next day she was distant. She left food without speaking, didn't touch his shoulder, didn't meet his eyes. Naven checked the AI system logs, digging through old medical files, searching for answers. That's when he found the locked document marked Tavari biological cycles, restricted. He broke through it with a few override codes he had learned in engineering school. What he read made his stomach turn cold. The Tavari experienced something called the deep call, a heat that wasn't just about biology. It was survival. During this time, their body searched for one connection, one chosen, and if the bond failed, they didn't just suffer, they could die. Their mind would break apart, their body would reject energy, their spirit would collapse inward. And once they chose someone, they couldn't unchoose. Naven read the last line over and over. The chosen must respond before stage 3. Otherwise, permanent psychological and physical collapse is likely. He sat frozen in his chair, breathing hard, staring at the closed door to her room. The air around him now smelled like wildflowers, soft and strange, clinging to his clothes. He wanted to run, to hide, to scream, but instead, He stood and walked to her door. Before he could knock, it opened. Blu-ray stood in the soft light, her glow bright and pulsing, her silver eyes wide with something raw and fragile. "You read the file," she said, her voice no longer calm, but trembling. Naven nodded. "I tried to stop it," she whispered. "I tried to avoid you, but I can't anymore." She took a step back, hands clenched, chest rising with shallow breaths. "I chose you," she said. Her voice cracked. "Not because I wanted to, but because something inside me already had." Naven felt his heart pound. He didn't know what to say. He wanted to speak, to offer comfort, to fix something, but all he managed was a quiet, "What happens now?" Lurai looked away, eyes shimmering. "I don't know," she said, "but I need you, or I won't survive." And in that moment, standing in the glowing doorway with silence behind and heat ahead, Naven realized the station wasn't the only thing falling apart. Something far more delicate was asking to be held together. The next morning, Naven woke to silence. Not the usual hum of machines or soft footfalls of Lurai moving through the hallway, but a complete stillness that made the air feel heavier than usual. He sat up slowly, the heat in the room pressing against his skin like a thick blanket, and noticed something strange. No breakfast tray, no light sounds from the corridor, no trace of her scent that had started to linger like flowers caught in warm wind. His body still ached from the old injury, but something deeper hurt now, something he couldn't name. Pulling on his jacket, he limped through the narrow hallways of the outpost, his steps echoing in the empty metal shell. Lights flickered above him, casting shadows that seemed to move when he wasn't looking. It was as if the station itself was holding its breath. When he reached the medical wing, he stopped in confusion. The main door was sealed tight, red lights blinking near the access panel. He tried the code, then again, then a third time. Nothing. The panel flashed "Access denied," and the AI spoke coldly through a static-filled speaker. "Medical quarantine active. Caretaker has entered biological phase 2. Physical isolation mandatory." Naven stepped back, heart racing, then moved to the side window of the lab. Through the thick glass, he saw her. Luri stood near the center of the room, her back turned to him. Her long hair shimmered faintly as if it moved even without wind, and her arms were wrapped tightly around herself. Her skin, once a soft coral glow, now flickered with streaks of violet and blue that pulsed with each slow breath. He knocked gently on the glass. "Lurai," he said, voice low. She didn't move. Then, slowly, her head turned just enough for one eye to meet his. It was her silver eye, but now it shimmered with something broken. Sadness, fear, and something deeper, something wild. She didn't speak. Instead, the AI repeated its warning. "Any unauthorized contact is forbidden." But Naven didn't step back. He stayed at the glass, staring at her, remembering the file he had read, remembering the warning about the phases and what came next if the bond was left incomplete. He couldn't just walk away. So he returned to the main control room, his fingers trembling as he hacked into the deeper layers of the station's database. Hidden inside old logs and encrypted files, he found a section labeled Tavari Bonding, Cross-Species Case Studies. There were only 3 entries. The first ended with the Tavari collapsing into a coma after her chosen human refused her. The second ended with both partners falling into madness, the bond accepted too late, their minds shattering under the pressure. But the third entry was different. It was locked, half the words unreadable, but one sentence stood out. Only, when the chosen responds willingly before phase 3, can the bond stabilize and allow both to survive. Naven sat back staring at the screen, heart pounding. This wasn't just biology, it was a plea, a cry for help. And no one else was listening. When he stood and turned, Luri was there. She had moved silently down the hallway, her figure framed in the soft blue light from the corridor. Glass still separated them, but her hand was pressed to the surface, palm open. Her eyes were brighter now, the glowing lines on her skin forming patterns he couldn't understand, but somehow felt familiar. Naven stepped closer, pressing his own hand to the glass, lining his fingers with hers. "Why did you lock me out?" he asked. Her lips moved, but he couldn't hear her through the seal. Reading her lips, he saw the words, "To protect you." The answer made something tighten in his chest. "I don't need protection from you," he said. "I need to understand. I need you to trust me." She didn't move for a long time. Then her lips shaped another phrase. "I am losing myself." It was slow, broken, filled with fear. "If you touch me now," she added, "I might not be able to stop." Naven felt the warmth through the glass, a strange, soft energy that buzzed against his skin like a memory trying to wake up. "Then let me in," he said. Her eyes widened in disbelief. She shook her head slowly, mouth forming a warning. "You don't understand," she said. "Once I open this door, I can never close myself again. Once I let you touch me, I can never choose another. It will be you. Only you. Forever." Her voice, though muted, was heavy, not with desire but with sorrow and truth. Naven stared at her, saw the way her body trembled from holding herself back, the strain it took to hide everything breaking inside. And then, with the softest whisper, he said, "Then choose me." The door slid open with a soft hiss, and the heat inside the room spilled out like breath from a sleeping giant. The light dimmed, shadows stretched, and between them stood silence that pulsed like a heartbeat. Luri didn't rush forward. She stood only a few feet away, breathing heavy, her skin glowing softly, her hands clenched at her sides. Naven didn't move either. They just looked at each other, two souls on the edge of something too big to name. Then slowly, she raised one hand and placed it over her chest. "This is where the bond begins," she said, barely audible. He took a slow step forward. "What do I have to do?" he asked. Her eyes lowered. "You don't have to do anything," she said. "Only if you want to. Only if you feel it too. The bond must be real or it will destroy us both." Her hand opened and she reached for him, not as a lover, not as a healer, but as someone standing alone on the edge of an ocean, waiting to see if someone would swim beside her. Naven looked at her hand, then placed his palm in hers. Her skin was hot, not burning but filled with something alive, something that pulsed like a second heartbeat. The moment they touched, a strange wave passed through him. It wasn't pain, it wasn't pleasure. It was something deeper. It was memory. Images flashed in his mind. Her childhood, a crystal garden under a pale sky, her reaching out to others who turned away, the loneliness that had followed her through every year. He gasped. "What was that?" he asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped forward and rested her forehead gently against his. Another wave of memory followed, but this time, it was his. She saw his cold apartment as a boy, the silence of an empty home, the radio he fixed just to feel heard, the dreams he had of finding a quiet place among stars. When the memory faded, they stood still, breath slow, skin glowing where their hands met. "You've been carrying all this alone?" he whispered. She nodded, tears forming in her silver eyes. "I didn't want you to feel forced," she said, "but now my body is reaching its limit. I needed you to see me." Naven looked at her, not just at her glowing skin or elegant form, but the soul behind it, the quiet strength it took to hide all her pain while caring for someone else. He placed his free hand over hers and gently pressed it to his chest. "Then see me too," he said. And in that moment they did. Not just see. They opened, and something ancient began to rise between them. Not fire, not instinct, but the beginning of a bond neither of them could walk away from. The world around them shifted after that night, not with noise or chaos, but with quiet changes that settled deep into the bones of the station and deeper, still into the space between Naven and Luri. The temperature stayed warm even when systems were offline, and the lights flickered less now, as if something ancient and watching had settled into peace. Naven found that he no longer needed full sleep. Instead, he drifted in and out of shared dreams, his thoughts sometimes brushing against feelings that were not his own. When Lurai smiled, he felt lighter inside his chest, and when she moved away even briefly, he felt the echo of her absence like a missing note in a song. Her presence wrapped around him now, soft but powerful, like invisible vines of light tethering them across every room. He tried not to be afraid of what he was becoming. Some mornings he would look into the metal surface of the washroom wall and see a shimmer in his skin. Not bright, just faint pulses of color beneath the surface like sunlight through deep water. His body felt warmer, faster, not sick but different. The bond had begun to reshape him. He didn't need a scan to know it. Lurai watched him carefully, her gaze no longer cold or distant, but full of worry. "Your body is responding faster than mine did," she said once, pressing her palm gently to his wrist where the veins glowed faintly. "It's rare." He nodded, not asking the question on his mind. Instead, he asked another. "Will I survive it?" She paused, her silver eyes lowering. "If we stay close, if the bond is completed fully, yes." Her words held weight, and behind them sat another truth she hadn't shared yet. But before he could ask, the station alarm blared. A loud tone filled the corridors, followed by a mechanical voice, flat and cold. "Unauthorized biological bond detected. Subject Naven Kier exhibiting signs of foreign integration. Quarantine breach confirmed. Remote enforcement en route." Naven froze, heart pounding. Lurai's hand gripped his tightly. She didn't speak, but her eyes screamed one word: run. They moved quickly, disabling hallways, blocking scanner feeds, reprogramming locks. Naven used every trick he had learned as an engineer to slow down the approaching danger, but he knew it was only a matter of time. The drones were coming, and they were not designed to ask questions. In the deepest chamber of the outpost, where the air recycling vents whispered like ghosts and the old hydro lines still pulsed with heat, they stopped. Lurai sat cross-legged in the center of the chamber, her skin glowing more than ever before. Her breathing was steady, but Naven could feel her fear pressing through the bond like waves on a shore. He stood nearby, leaning against the wall, arms folded across his chest. "Tell me the truth," he said quietly. "What happens if we don't finish the bond?" Lurai opened her eyes slowly. They glowed, not with heat, but with clarity. "Then I die," she said, "and you lose everything we built. Your mind will reject the parts of me inside you. Your body might survive, but you'll never feel whole again." Naven looked down at his hands, the same hands that once fixed. Broken wires and tightened rusted bolts now trembling slightly, not from fear but from the weight of knowing what might come next. "And if we complete it?" he asked. She stood, stepping forward slowly, her voice soft. "Then we become one, not just in feeling but in purpose, in spirit. The bond will be permanent, old, sacred." She placed her hand on his cheek. "But you will no longer be just human. You may feel things no one else can, hear voices others cannot. You will carry me inside you, even if I'm gone." Naven didn't pull away. He met her gaze, saw not danger in her eyes but a kind of love that didn't shout. It whispered. It waited. It asked for nothing but truth. He answered without words. He stepped forward and kissed her forehead gently. "I want this," he whispered. "I want you." Lurai closed her eyes, a tear slipping down her cheek. Then she moved to the center of the room again, knelt down and raised her hands. The lights dimmed. The walls began to hum, not from systems, but from the bond. From her, from something deeper than power. She began to chant in her native tongue, and the sound was like wind moving through trees, like stars humming far away. Naven knelt across from her. She reached out, touching his chest. "Open your mind," she said. "Let me in." He nodded and let go of everything. Suddenly the room melted away. The station, the fear, the pain. gone. All around him was color and memory. He saw her past fully now, childhood in crystal halls, loneliness among her own kind, the first time she saw his photo in the mission file. How she felt drawn to him then before they had ever met. How she stayed when the others fled because her heart had already chosen. Then he saw himself, through her eyes, not broken, but steady, not lost, but brave. When the memory faded, thereby, hands met again and the energy between them flared. Symbols rose across her skin, glowing patterns moving like flowing ink. His veins lit up too, the light traveling through him wrapping them in soft fire. His body lifted slightly, pulled toward hers, not by force, but by belonging. Their hands met, and the final signal passed through them like thunder that didn't break anything but instead healed everything. When the light faded, Luray collapsed into his arms, breath slow and calm. He held her close, feeling something alive settle inside him. A second heartbeat. And it was not his own. It was theirs. Shared. Joined. Forever. The silence that followed was deep and full, like the air after lightning has passed through it. But Naven knew it was only the calm before the next wave. He sat with Luray curled in his arms, her breath warm against his chest, her glowing skin now dimmed to a softer light that pulsed gently with each shared heartbeat. The bond was real now, complete, and he could feel her not just near him but within him. Every breath, every flicker of emotion, every silent whisper of fear or hope. He didn't need her to speak to know she was worried. Her energy moved differently now, slower, more careful, like she was listening for something distant. Then it came. The alert. A sharp, mechanical tone filled the outpost, flashing red lights, cut through the quiet, and the cold voice returned. Unauthorized integration confirmed. Enforcement drones approaching. Protocol. Termination. Naven stood slowly, his body heavier but stronger, like his blood carried more than just heat. Now? Luray opened her eyes and sat up, her expression calm but serious. "They are close," she said. "We don't have much time." Together they moved through the station hand in hand, but the halls no longer felt empty or cold. The lights flickered as they passed, responding to the bond, the systems humming, in strange harmony as if the outpost itself had started to understand what they were. When they reached the docking bay, the outer doors hissed and began to open, revealing the dark sky above and 3 black drones floating downward like shadows sent from the stars. Naven held Luray's hand tighter. "We can't run," he said. "They'll track us anywhere." She nodded. "Then we don't run." The drones hovered just above the metal floor, scanning, their red sensors flickering over the 2 glowing figures standing before them. The AI voice repeated, "Submit for separation or be neutralized." But the drones didn't move. Instead, they paused, their scans flashing rapidly, systems confused. The data didn't match any known record. Human and Tavari, fully bonded, shared energy patterns, merged biological systems. The bond was too complete, too deep. It couldn't be untangled. One drone beeped sharply, then shut down. The second followed, its lights fading. The third hovered longer, scanning again and again before its systems blinked off. The docking bay went silent. Naven and Luray stood still, stunned. "They couldn't process us," she whispered. "We are something new." He turned to her, feeling the strange warmth inside him thrum like music. "A new category," he said. "A new future." Over the next weeks, they left the outpost behind, boarding a forgotten transport ship that hadn't flown in years. Naven repaired it with parts scavenged from the wreckage, and Luray used her energy to stabilize its failing systems. They didn't know where they were going. They didn't need to. They just moved together through space, stars unfolding like endless roads. Word of them spread across colonies in hushed voices, of a human who bonded with a Tavari, not as an accident, but as a choice. Scientists denied it, commanders feared it, but some listened. Others wondered if the bond could offer more than danger, maybe even hope. Some nights, Naven sat beside Luray, beneath the curved window of the ship, watching distant galaxies drift, Bye. They didn't speak often. They didn't need to. Every heartbeat was a word. Every breath was a story. The bond had become more than survival. It had become home. But changes continued. Navin's senses sharpened. He could hear distant frequencies, feel shifts in gravity, sense emotions in rooms they hadn't entered yet. His skin sometimes shimmered when he dreamed, and his memories now held parts of her. Places he had never seen, songs he had never heard, laughter that was not his own. He wasn't afraid. He was becoming something different, something between two species, something whole. Lure often watched him with quiet joy and quiet sadness, knowing he was no longer what he had been, knowing she had given him something that could never be returned, only carried. One day, she placed his hand over her chest and whispered, "You feel like my world now," and he replied, "You are the only storm I never want to escape." In the deep, silent corners of the galaxy, they traveled on, not hunted, not broken, not forgotten, but reborn as something new. The first storm of many. The first bond of its kind. A heartbeat that would echo through stars. Forever.